Hello, and welcome to Your Vote Counts. I'm Bernadine Anderson from the League of Women Voters, bringing you this public, nonpartisan voter service program. These 2020 general election interviews are made possible through Capital Community Media via remote technology and in collaboration with the Leagues of Women Voters of Oregon and Marion Polk counties. For this race, all candidates were invited. Candidates did not receive the questions ahead of time that were developed by the League of Women Voters, American Association of University Women, and neighborhood associations. The candidates were asked to prepare a 3-minute statement about themselves, their qualifications, and their vision for the office if elected. Today we have with us Ramiro Navarro, who is running for House District 25, and he will now share his opening comments. Mr. Navarro?
Hi, thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it. So a little bit about me. My name is Ramiro Navarro Jr. Most people just call me RJ for short. Um, I am born and raised right here in Oregon, more specifically Kaiser, Oregon. Worked the fields in Jervis, Woodburn, St. Paul, Newburgh. Growing up, ended up leaving school early to help my parents pay the bills. And but in 2008, I had to leave my job as a metal fabricator to because of the recession. Ended up joining the military. The way I tell it is, I joined the military at 18, was a combat veteran at 19, and an alcoholic by 20. A reason that I bring that up is because I would like everybody to feel comfortable coming forward and asking for help when they need it. I didn't have that support when I got out of the military, and I ended up using drugs and alcohol to cope with my trauma. That led to me getting sentenced to 18 months, day for day, no good time, no work time, on my first felony charge for marijuana. Um, the reintegration after prison was not that all different from leaving the military. I got my DD 214, a bag full of my belongings, and was told pretty much good luck. I was offered a second chance though with a criminal justice reinvestment program, and they offered to pay for my housing, my schooling, and all I had to do was stay clean and sober. So they had me at housing. I ended up joining and went to college at Chemeketa Community College. Ended up while I was there, I received peer support from other veterans who were like me, who had had the same lived experience. That is what really helped me in my recovery. And so I ended up continuing at Chemeketa. I went to school for business management, ended up starting an organization that meets every summer to teach youth the benefits of pursuing a higher education, either through college or the military. That program is called the Oregon Veterans Youth Challenge. We still run it to this day. And so in 2019, when a McNair youth teen was shot and killed in Salem, I felt like I had failed him. He was part of that demographic that we reach out to, teens at risk that are 16 and 19. So during that time, I had reached out to our representative to say, hey, what can we do to prevent something like this from happening again? His response was, well, I'm the representative of Kaiser. That happened in Salem. It's not in my district, so it's not my problem. I explained to him that the kid went to school at McNary in the district. His parents are your constituents. How can somebody be so dismissive of their constituents, people that live in their district? And so it was at that moment that I decided that I was going to be his problem. And so now I'm running against my opponent for Representative House District 25. Some things that I would like to see changed is I would like to see more representation for veterans in the district. We have, I could go on forever about how bad we treat our veterans in Oregon. But I would like to see more representation for that. I would like to see more representation and support for our students and our teachers in the district. And I would like to see some focus on the environmental issues that we're all experiencing right now. We need to acknowledge that this is what's going on right now isn't normal. And we could be doing more to support the community at large. Thank you.
And thank you. We'll give you some opportunity in these questions to maybe expand on some of those areas. So let's jump right in. Question 1, what steps can be put into place to create an infrastructure that's more resilient to the fires, the floods, seismic, and political trauma that is being experienced?
Well, I think that there's a couple things that we could be doing. One thing that I had read about, which I experienced personally, was the overplanting of trees. So we were overplanting trees after during the reforestation process, and that leads to a lot of fuel that's being left in these forests that otherwise wouldn't have had that many trees planted there to begin with. And I know that for a fact because I used to do reforestation. I used to work in the mountains, and so yeah, that's what we do. Every step that we take, we're throwing down that shovel, we're opening the ground, we're throwing a plant in, closing it, and moving forward. And we do that on whole hillsides. And so I completely understand that maybe we're going about that the wrong way, replanting, and more can be done. But one thing that I would like to do is address clean air issues. I think there's a lot more that we could be doing to support renewable energy and cleaner air here in Oregon.
Okay. I'm going to take a look at that question and let you expand on that. In terms of climate change, how do you have what is your understanding of cap and reduce, and what features would you like to see put into a climate change package or plan?
So my understanding of cap and trade is that it's very intricate, and I think there's a bunch of different aspects in there. But one that was interesting to me was that it didn't necessarily address how are we going to support these people from getting off of fossil fuels and using renewable energy. So that's something that I would really like to look at is how can we support not just commercial vehicles but also personal vehicles on getting off of fossil fuels and converting over to renewable energy. I, being a mechanic in the military, I investigated a little bit about how we could convert. My dream was to convert a Humvee over to biodiesel. And so explored a bunch of different things. And it's actually pretty easy to convert a gasoline vehicle like my 98 Honda Civic into an electric motor. But there's no benefits for that. There's no incentives for that. We're incentivizing buying brand new vehicles, but we're not incentivizing converting old ones. And so that's something that I would like to bring to the table and also support people who would like to convert over to those, but to our commercial workers who would like to convert their fleets from gasoline to electric vehicles.
Thank you. I'm going to revisit the infrastructure situation and considering the recent fires, floods, thunderstorms, and so forth. Uh, Looking at infrastructure of our state and our communities, what things would you do differently for that?
For the infrastructure for emergency preparedness or for the fires? Oh, for emergency preparedness, I think
Yes.
that we could be doing a lot more. What we saw with the fires that happened in San Diego is that the community wasn't ready. Um, we had a bunch of individuals that were kind of working against each other instead of working with each other and addressing the needs of the community. There was a scare recently where people had believed that ICE was at the state fairgrounds. And so a lot of people from the immigrant community didn't feel comfortable going. And so that whole population, or a big chunk of that population, was left out of the equation when it came to receiving support at the Red Cross. And so, luckily, and I say we, a bunch of organizations, including some here in Kaiser, got together and we banded together, and we were able to get the resources and supplies out to the immigrant communities where they felt safe coming to us. And so that was something that could have been addressed a lot better. There was little to no information in Spanish to begin with when it came to this crisis. I was working with a newspaper to be able to translate some of the public health information because the county wasn't doing it. Um, I think that we definitely need to revisit um, the way that we get out public health information. We need to acknowledge that we have communities that don't use English as their primary language here in Marion County and Yamhill counties. And yeah, we definitely we should use this as an experience to learn and see where we could be doing better so that next time around, if something happens like this, because to me, something like this is bound to happen again, we'll be ready for it.
You mentioned education earlier in your opening remarks, so let's take a look at that. Where would you address the areas of school building, design and redesign that would provide for the concerns we have, ensuring distancing, providing instruction, airflow, and funding for both K-12 and higher ed? Big question. What do you think we should do?
Yeah, I think that we should definitely keep funding our schools. There was this idea that the Student Success Act was really bad for schools and for the community, and that's not the case at all. Student Success Act improved a lot of resources that we were able to get out to the schools and the people that live in, more specifically, House District 25. So yeah, there was a lot that we could be doing to fund our schools more sufficiently. And I think that that includes bringing back trade programs here in House District 25, or at least in the Salem Keizer School District. We have taken trade programs out of the schools and we've consolidated them over at one location called CTEC. What that led to was the requirement of having to get into this facility. And so now you have more barriers for kids who might not have ever been interested in going to college, but they were interested in automotive tech. But now that that's not in their school, they have no incentive or they have no motivation to continue going to class. And I think that if we bring that back, then we can decrease our dropout rates for the Salem Keizer School District. We can increase the graduation rates. We can also support individuals. If we pair that with renewable energy job training back in the schools, then we have a workforce that can fill the needs of renewable energy jobs that we hope to bring to Oregon.
Let's take a look at a budget question. Passing a balanced budget is a difficult job, and considering all the events that have occurred, it will be a big task. What will be your guiding principles as you try to make your budgetary choices?
I think it would be a priority to look at some of the audits that have been conducted to see how well some programs are doing, to see where we could reallocate funding to other areas that need improvement, and be able to support existing programs with what they need to survive. But yeah, I think that that's a big thing for me, is that I don't want to see frivolous spending, because that's something that I saw in the military, was that we were we were paying 3 times the amount for a service or for a part, and the only difference between that part and the regular automotive part that you would have bought from like AutoZone or something like that is it says mill on the first half of it. So it's saying it's for the military, but it's exactly the same part. There's no difference whatsoever in the piece. And so I think that there's a way that we could go about funding programs appropriately and making sure that that funding isn't being spent unwisely.
You mentioned your issues that you had with getting established in a home and having that security. So, what plans do you know of and would you propose regarding homelessness that's been caused due to COVID, eviction, fires, all situations? So, express your plan regarding homelessness.
Okay. So regarding homelessness, what really worked for me, and that I've seen work for a lot of people, is the criminal justice reinvestment program that I went through. That program paid for a room at it was like a halfway house for 3 months, and that gave me the opportunity to not worry about rent for 3 months, to be able to save up my money to be able to focus on being clean and sober. And it was with that support that I was able to go on and get a job at Chemeketa and be able to afford my own apartment and get back on my own 2 feet. I think that that's something that we could look at when it comes to supporting people that are dealing with crises, with this crisis. Um, Being able to support them with affordable rent for a few months until they're able to get back on their feet, and then support them after that, and being able to find housing opportunities, because at least in the Santiam Valley, like that's been burnt. There was one town that we delivered supplies to in Phoenix, Oregon, in Southern Oregon, and it was completely burnt to the ground. And so, how can we support people with getting affordable rent when we don't even have places for them to live? So, I think that another focus would also be rebuilding and supporting initiatives that bring housing to communities, more specifically like rural communities, like those impacted by the fires.
Your last question, uh, if you were elected to the House, what committees would you like to serve on, and would you have particular targets?
Um, One committee that I would really like to serve on is the Veterans and Emergency Preparedness Committee. That's one that I've worked with in the past, and I would feel really comfortable sitting on. It would support me in addressing a lot of the issues in Oregon that we have when it comes to homelessness, suicide rate, poverty among veterans, and yeah. So I think that would be my focus.
Thank you. And thank you, candidate Navarro, for our interview today and for sharing your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And if I could just let everybody know that you can find more information about me on my website. It's www.ramironavarro.org. You can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at RJ, the number 4 in Oregon.
Thanks also to Capital Community Media for their time and expertise in creating this program and for making it available across the state through YouTube and vote411.org. Thank you to the several League of Women Voters, American Association of University Women, Salem City Club for being interviewers and for suggesting questions. And thanks to you, the public, for watching your vote count in order to become a more informed voter. For more voter information, including dates, registration, candidates for state and local areas, and ballot measure information, please go online to vote411.org. You have it until October 13th to register to vote or to make address changes. Ballots will be mailed beginning October 14th. That very special day, November 3rd, is our election day. Please remember, postmarks don't count. Elections matter, and they do make a difference in our communities, our state, and our nation. So remember to vote because your vote counts.